everyone. Welcome back to Power Tips. I'm here with Heidi and Malcolm, and today we want to talk about a hot topic right now around OpenAI. So, Malcolm, you had this idea about talking about ChatGPT, so you want to give us a quick intro?
I mean, I can. I guess that makes me a bandwagon jumper because it's everywhere, right? If you haven't heard about this, you legitimately have not opened anything on anything because it's everywhere. But it's just, to me, there's lots of chatter about how cool it is, and I don't dispute that at all. It's amazing what it's doing, but I also think that there's a lot of benefits and challenges that could be realized that I don't know that people are talking about. So I thought we could just talk about that, right? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? What do people need to think about when they're going to use a tool like this? Heidi, let's just maybe start with what it's doing. Just again, just in case there is somebody who's been living under a rock and hasn't heard of this.
Yeah.
So, Heidi, you
If
asked
you
it something.
Absolutely. If you haven't checked out ChatGPT yet, we have this little example here scrolling on the right. And I asked, what do you think about power tips on YouTube? So first thing that comes back is we've apparently plagiarized power tips on YouTube. Somebody else is doing it. But then we ask about power tips by the three of us and look at these awesome things that our little ChatGPT friend says about the video series. I did think it was really cool because nowhere on the YouTube channel does it spell this out with these words, right? It's actually like pulling some AI terminology from our videos themselves and the names of the videos. So I thought that was pretty neat how it works. And I'll just tell you what these screenshots are on this slide. So up at the top here, Malcolm, you asked what are potential benefits. This is what you see when you log into ChatGPT. I know it's small, but go check out the website. And this is an example where a user is asking the bot, this code isn't working as I expect. How do I fix it? And just copy and paste. And ChatGPT is suggesting different things you can try with the code. That is a huge benefit.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
is cool.
there's real people you can ask too, but if you're, short on time or you need a quick answer, this is a really nice first step that you could take. The other two are challenges and limitations, which we can talk about when you want to go there.
Yeah, and I'll give an example of a neat thing that I've seen somebody do with this is I'm stealing this from somebody else. It's not my idea, but they were using it in their team. They were trying to kick off a new marketing campaign about a certain thing, and they were struggling with ideas, or I guess they weren't really struggling. They just wanted other ideas, so they asked ChatGPT and said, "Hey, we want to do a marketing campaign on this topic. What are some ideas?" And it started apparently to give them tons of ideas, paths that they could follow. And then to your point, right, you ask it again, you re-ask the question, you tailor it based on the information it gives you, and it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper into the details. So that's a real world example of something that somebody's doing. I think that's great. That's a cool way of getting ideas because we can't all think of everything, and this is based in a massive knowledge base in the world. So it's pulling information from all kinds of sources, which is really cool.
Well, we've actually been using it for a whole bunch of little everyday things. So we've been moving and dealing with all of that stuff. So instead of searching how to paint a wall, sometimes it's easier to search here because it's going to be consolidating multiple sources, right? So one silly one the other day was we were looking at a bookcase, right? And all these bookcases have weight limitations for each shelf, right? If you're buying the cheapo ones. And so we're like, okay, well, let's see, can that actually hold books or what does that mean? And so Andrew's over there, Andrew's the hubby, and he's like, what's the average weight of a book? So if we have books this many, and he's trying to do the math, right? And I just went to ChatGPT and I was like, how many books could I fit on a shelf that can hold whatever? And we're getting the same answers, and it's walking through the whole steps of saying the exact same thing. Okay, well, if we assume the average book weighs this, then so it was really interesting. And it's just kind of silly, right? But it's interesting how it can consolidate kind of multiple sources and then do the smart logic that goes along with it.
That's really neat. So when I think about potential benefits in business, the first thing I think about are chatbots, which is really interesting, right? This is clearly going to become a Power Automate connector someday. We're going to have a connector. We're going to be able to plug it in to all of the Power Platform. And then can you rely on something like this to run your chat? I mean, that could be cheaper, easier to set up. I don't know what ChatGPT pricing is going to be because it's free right now during their test period, but it might be a really viable option, which I guess also segues us to anticipated challenges. Unless you can't control what your chatbot's saying, and maybe, oh no, all of a sudden, instead of talking about your business hours, they're talking about your competitors, or like where's the line between your benefit and your challenge in that scenario?
That's funny,
And
right? Look, turns out the place you're looking for is closed at 6 p.m., but if you go to this other place, they're open till 8, and be like, no,
Right.
stop. That's not what I want. But it's an interesting way of looking at it. Like, what are the benefits to your customer that this tool could give you, right? I think a lot of
Mhm.
people are looking at how does it help me in my day, because we're centric, right? I get it. What can it do to benefit me? But if a company's looking at this and like, how can this tool help us help the customer? That to me is a whole other platform, and we're already seeing, right, there's discussion about this coming into Bing, and it's starting to infuse results from all of these sources there. I haven't looked at a whole lot of that. I've only seen a couple of examples, but that's pretty powerful. I think this is the future of search, is one of the things I've heard a few times, right?
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah,
it
I
can
think
kind of replace the whole knowledge management stuff within
Yeah.
Dynamics.
I think the one thing too that I keep thinking about too is the ethical considerations, one of using AI to do stuff, but also of where is this data coming from, right? So one thing you'll notice, like let's say I ask a scientific question, it'll provide an answer in ChatGPT, but it doesn't provide any sources, but you could ask for it to provide sources. But it's like, how do I use this information that is coming from somewhere and I'm not crediting it? So something that's different on the Bing chat is that every answer it gives you, it includes the sources for that information. So you could click there and get more information. So I think we hear a lot of people talking about, what this is going to do in education, and, are people going to use it to like do their work? Whereas I think in the Bing side, at least you can do it and then hopefully dive in more and get more information and actually use the sources, compared to ChatGPT, where it might be easier to just copy and go on your merry way, right?
Right.
I asked it this while we were waiting, like, how can you learn more about Dynamics 365 CRM? And I actually thought this one was cool. It kind of does give sources without giving links to sources.
Yeah. And I think if you ask it, can you provide the specific sources for this information, then it will, it should, fingers crossed, tell you some of it. While you type that, I did play with the Bing one a little bit. And what's interesting is ChatGPT is based in like information cut off in 2021 sometime.
Right.
And then Bing is like pulling new information. And so the Bing one, you can like search for yourself and it'll be like, here's all this stuff about Kylie. She does this and this and this. And then I think I asked it like, what was my most recent video? And so it said something about one of our Power Tips videos. And then it had a suggested question of like, who is Heidi Newhouser? And I was like, well, that's kind of freaky.
That's pretty cool. Oh,
yeah, look at this. Look at this. This is wild, right?
Third-party consultants, how'd they get there?
Yeah.
You need to tell them, add re-enhance to this list. Add C5 to the next person.
This
But
is
look, it's
really
calling out
interesting.
specific resources, and it's giving you the full link, which I think is amazing, right? So then you just dive right in, which I mean, not very different from what a search engine is going to do, but different context. This feels to me different than searching for it in a Bing or the other search bar. The other thing I was going to say, not to be that guy, but I start to think about, I'm sure you've seen those videos of the Boston Dynamic robots that through AI tools and what they've trained the models to do, it can do all these things. These robots can like run and jump and lift and, push back and do all that. And I think of, again, not to be that guy, but think of this and that, and they come together to start to automate tasks that people can do without having to give it. I've always maintained computers are great if the person who built it told it what to do properly. Now it's telling itself what to do based on a plethora of information, and it's figuring stuff out. And that to me is the epitome of artificial intelligence. It's gathering the information, making a determination, and moving forward to do an action. And that to me, that blows my mind. And I think of like all the to the point of this slide, right? There's lots of benefits to that. There's lots of challenges too. Just things that we need to think about as we go through that. So it's wild stuff.
Yeah, and they're really upfront with those limitations and those challenges. I mean, they're making sure they cover their butts in this, right? Because this can very easily surface wrong information. I think we've all seen that in like LinkedIn or news stuff where you're asking something and an inappropriate response comes back or
Right. Right.
wrong information. But yeah, they're until this is ironed out, I don't know that I would necessarily implement this as a solution, but I find it really interesting. If somehow you can take, is it possible to take OpenAI and define the sources? Does that even make sense? I'd like OpenAI to run, but only on the sources within my organization, in my SharePoint libraries, or within Microsoft 365 context. I don't
I
know
mean,
if
I
you
that's
can
kind
wonder.
of
do
what you
that.
do with Power Virtual Agents, right? You train
Yeah,
it with
right.
your content. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's the future.
Yeah, and oh, I lost my train of thought on that. You can kind of, I think you probably can refine the sources, right? If you were to ask it, that question you asked it on the other screen, where do you get good resources? Then narrow that down and be like, okay, I want only resources from official documentation from the
Mhm.
vendor, right? Microsoft is the one that came up, but from whatever, I wonder if it would start to narrow down. So then you can get the specific detail from the resources you're looking for. Um, as an option. Maybe you probably can. And that's one thing I've heard people say. They just keep reframing the question, taking tidbits
Mhm.
from what it gave them and putting it a slightly different way. And that seems to get, the results get deeper and deeper, as I said earlier. So cool stuff. It's mind blowing to think we're here at a time where this kind of stuff is coming together. I've seen some really cool examples. I'm sure most of you have that what people are coming up with when they're looking at this. I saw two guys create a song with AI the other day, and it was like, make a song based on these performers, based on this kind of beat schedule, and it churned for a few hours, and it came back with a song that was unique. It was original. Right? Nobody had written it before. Took tidbits. You could definitely hear where it was inspired from, but no, this song had never been written before, and AI just built it, and it was the caption on the video was like, maybe this is a hit song this summer, right? It's like, maybe it was, but it was actually pretty good. Like, it wasn't that bad. So that's kind of crazy that it can do that kind of stuff.
I've been writing haikus about pandas, so that's helpful.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all.
Anyways, thank you
Awesome.
everybody for joining us and joining in this conversation. Let us know down in the chat if you are using ChatGPT or the Bing chat in any of your projects or within your organization, or what challenges or limitations you have. And let us know other topics that you'd like to hear on Power Tips. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.